What up? We have been home from our Panama trip for a week and a half now, and I just wanted to take a minute to record some thoughts on why we went there and what we learned while we were there. I have not done much travel, and this has been the first time that I've been out of the country on this Panama trip. And the reason I started thinking about going was because we love to go to Hawaii. That is one place that we go and really enjoy it. It's obviously beautiful weather, the beaches are amazing, the water's amazing. It's just a really neat place to be. And last time we came back from Hawaii, I started thinking, man, why don't we just live there? Because with the job I do, I can work from most anywhere. If I've got a good internet connection, I can work from anywhere. So I started thinking, well, let's move to Hawaii, and looking at costs of living, costs of rent or purchasing properties. It's just really expensive. So I started looking around, looking at other locations that would be, considered paradise, tropical locations with great beaches and great water and good infrastructure. And one of the top-rated places was Panama. So I started looking into it and found out some interesting things about it. Obviously, it is a tropical location. It's in the jungle. Pretty humid there. It gets lots of rain and has lots of coastline. Some other cool things about Panama is that they use the dollar as their currency. The prices of things there are supposedly fairly affordable, and they're supposed to have the infrastructure because they're the banking hub for all of Central America. They're supposed to have pretty good infrastructure. So I had assumed that they would have a really good internet connection. When we were there, we stayed at a condo in Coronado, first of all, and the internet at the condo was not great. It was very spotty. It would come in and out, and wasn't very fast. So, well, I thought, well, maybe it's just the condo. And later we went into Panama City and stayed in a hotel there, and the hotel Wi-Fi was consistent, but it was very slow. We're talking like old dial-up speed slow, just really slow. Then when we were leaving, we were in the airport, and I tried to get on the airport system, and they have a free one that you can get on for a half an hour, and then there's one that you can pay to be on. And I tried to get on the one that I could pay for, but it was so slow I couldn't even pay for it. So I figured, well, Panama must not have very good internet. We also found while we were there that things aren't as cheap as we thought that they would be, and maybe that's just some of the locations we went were more expensive. We did find some stuff that was quite a bit cheaper, but we also found a lot of things that were more expensive than we would find at home. Our experience on the beaches, we went to 3 different beaches. When we were in Coronado, we went to the beach there. We went down the road to Playa Santa Clara and visited the beach there, and it was a nice beach. There weren't the coves and reefs and stuff like that to stop the waves and the water. The water wasn't really clear, but the beaches were fairly nice. We also spent a day and went out to Toboga Island, which is just a half an hour boat ride from Panama City, and we enjoyed that. The beaches again were pretty nice, but the water's not that clear. There wasn't coral reefs or fish that we could snorkel and swim around with. So I wasn't super impressed with the beaches. I guess Hawaii is probably a unique location, and we were hoping to see something like that, but it wasn't anywhere close to what we would experience in Hawaii. Some of the videos and travel guides and things that I watched and studied before going talked about being able to get around without being a Spanish speaker. And it seemed like there should be quite a few people that spoke English, and there were some. English is fairly uncommon, I would say. We did bump into a few people that we could correspond with, but largely it's Spanish speaking, and it should be. That's the language of the country, so I'm not sure what I was expecting, but I thought we would bump into more people that spoke English. And if I were to go and live in a place like that, obviously I'd want to learn the language. One other thing that I thought would be cool about Panama is we've got a son that's got some skin conditions where he just struggles with dry, itchy skin, and he's on medication and is always using lots of lotions, and I thought maybe a environment that's a lot more humid would be good for his skin, and I think we all noticed that there is some benefit to our skin while we're in a very humid environment. I didn't use lotion at all while I was there, and living in Utah it is very dry here, and have to use lotion every day so my skin doesn't feel dried out. So the humidity was awesome. People talked about the heat and the humidity, and it was hot, and whenever we would walk somewhere and the sun was shining, and we'd sweat a lot. It didn't feel like it was super hot, but just the sweat would just pour down our backs and get our clothes soaked. But I liked the humidity. I liked that a little more than the dryness that we experience here. Another cool thing about Panama is that they drive on the right side of the road. So coming from the United States, it was a good transition. The road signs were in a different language, but it was good to have the familiarity. Traffic was interesting. The drivers down there are crazy. I think every single car is banged up and scratched up, and it's almost like driving bumper cars down there, and the drivers love to honk their horns. My wife would say they drive with one hand on the steering wheel and one hand on the horn, and from our standards are pretty rude. When you try to get into another lane, they fight you to merge over, and so you have to force your way over. Nobody's going to be letting you in, so you have to be pretty aggressive in driving and be pretty careful. We had insurance on our rental car for sure. You wouldn't want to drive around without it, but it was a little stressful getting around in traffic, and the traffic in Panama City is crazy. You'll find times a day where everything is just gridlock. You'll hit a certain road and it will be wide open, no cars on it at all, and then a mile down the road, or a kilometer I guess, everything comes to a standstill, and it's really pretty crazy the times of day that happens. So it's very, very interesting in the city. When we were outside of the city, all the other locations, it was pretty easy to get around. But from what we understand, this is the slow season in August 2017. I can't imagine what it would be like, especially in Panama City, in the busy season. So we're glad we were in there during the slow season. One thing that we noticed, there's garbage everywhere. The streets and the sidewalks and the beaches are filled with trash. It was pretty amazing. When the trash cans or dumpsters get full, they just throw their garbage all around the cans or dumpsters, and nobody cleans those up. I'm sure eventually that gets cleaned up, but there was just garbage and trash everywhere. So very interesting. I've been told that that's similar in all of Central America and South America. So I guess we just have different standards. Infrastructure there, I think the buildings are fairly well maintained and kept, and some of the roads were, but we would get onto other roads that seemed like they were paved 30 years ago and have never been maintained since then. Severe potholes. In fact, when we first got into the airport and got our rental car and we're leaving the city, we thought we had a flat tire. Turns out it was just the roads. We just weren't used to that. We were in our tiny little car. Probably would have been better to be in a sport utility vehicle or something with some bigger wheels to handle the roughness of the road. But after driving in Panama City, I wouldn't want to be in a bigger car. That little car was perfect to drive through the traffic and be able to squeeze through tight spaces and get where we needed to go. There was a lot of people on motorcycles, and if you're a motorcycle rider, that's the way to do it down in Panama. You can go up traffic and get through the gridlock and get where you're needing to go. Being in a car is not as good as a motorcycle. Of course, you've got to carry passengers and things, but if you're just commuting in and out of there to work, get a motorcycle. That is definitely the way to do it. One thing that I found interesting is I'm always looking at different motorcycles and buying motorcycles here in the United States, and we need fairly big motorcycles because we've got lots of freeways and high freeway speeds going 80 miles an hour. And in Panama, most of the freeway type roads or the highway type roads are 80 kilometers an hour, which is 50 miles per hour roughly. And there's a few that are 100 kilometers per hour, which is about 60 miles an hour. And you could really get away with having a small, lighter motorcycle because you don't have to go down all those long freeway miles at high speeds. So I thought that was neat. Our experience with navigating around Panama and the other locations we went to was interesting. They don't use addresses, so they go by a name of a building or a landmark or something like that, and so plugging that into Google Maps for navigation or the application called Waze generally would get us where we needed to go, but some of the fine-tuning of getting you there when you're 95% of the way there, it has a hard time getting you right where you need to be. When you have somebody pick you up from your hotel, you just give them the name of the hotel. So it's interesting that they don't have street addresses the way that we do in the United States. We talked to some of the locals about how they get mail, and it's really, there is no postal delivery system. So you go to the post office or the equivalent of that and get your mail there. During the summer months in Utah, it gets dark really late. 9 or 9:30 at night it gets dark, and in Panama it is pitch dark by 7 p.m. every day. And so that is interesting. They probably don't have to deal with the daylight savings time and different raising and setting of the sun. The food down there was okay. Not quite what we were used to. It seems like it's hard to find food to eat healthy. It seems like French fries come with every meal, and fried plantains, lots of cheese. Now you're going to think I'm crazy because I want to find healthy food, but the other hard thing was to find varieties of soda. They have very few varieties of soda. It's hard to get diet soda, which down there they call light. So you have to either buy juice or beer, or the few varieties of soda that they do have you can choose from. But it's not like here where you pretty much can choose anything that you want anytime and find it in any store. It was nice as a tourist and somebody from out of the country that there was policemen everywhere. It seemed like in traffic and in the public locations there's police officers everywhere. Didn't have any interactions or any problems with them at all. While we were there, also some of the locations that we went to that we had a lot of fun at. We went up to a place called El Valle, which is in Anton Valley, and it's a really cute city up there, very small, and that's where we did our zip line tour of the jungle, and it was fun. It was just a nice drive up there. That's where that really steep hill sign was that got us all laughing. But a beautiful time. Not a lot of people up there. It was just really nice. We did a tour of a jungle also, where they took us up a tram and up at the top of the trees in the jungle, and we tried to see toucans. We saw a couple in the distance, not anything very close, but it was fun to be up there. Also on that tour, they took us on a boat ride on the Panama Canal and into some jungle locations where we saw crocodiles and monkeys and some iguanas. So that was really fun. Obviously we went to the Panama Canal tour, and I thought it was interesting for about a half an hour, and that's all that I needed. But my wife loved it. She just wanted to stay there and watch these boats come in and get drained down and push through the canals. It's a slow process, and it's interesting to see the mechanics of it and the way that they built that system and learn about what it took to create it. I wouldn't spend too much time there personally, but everybody's different. Overall, it was a really fun trip, good experience to get out of the United States and see a different culture with people that speak a different language and just have different ways that they live. It was pretty eye-opening for us. The United States is a pretty amazing place. It was just really, really educational. We talked while we were out there that the trip was not a vacation, but it was education, and it was quite an experience. It was stressful at times. The whole goal was to find somewhere that was comparable to Hawaii but lower living expenses. But it was a bit of a culture shock. I do look forward to going back at some time. I want to take a motorcycle trip all the way down the Pan American Highway, which will go right through Panama, have my motorcycle shipped around the Darien Gap and then into Colombia, and go through Colombia and Peru and Argentina. I think that would be really, really fun. So this is probably just the start of a lot of other adventures and neat experiences to get out and see what the world is like. And those are my thoughts. Hopefully there's something in there of value to you. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer those the best I can. We didn't see all of Panama. We didn't see the northern area, but within a few hours of Panama City is where we spent our time. Limited time, you can't do everything, and perhaps when I go back I'll see some of those other sites. So that's it.